Spirituality involves a sweetness and a kindness and an absoluteness in your awareness that will carry you through everything. Knowing first that every decent person in the world is fighting a great battle. We're not at war with anyone or anything. There's an invisible web of something that's called the dark force, whatever you want to call it, that creates all the boundaries in the world, all the separations, all the conditions, all the fears, all the trepidations, and they don't exist for the spiritual. In Buddhism, they talk about the Buddha, the enlightened state, and your relationship to it. The Dharma, which is the spiritual work. And the Sangha, which is the community of spiritual people. And you might instantly think of, the monks and the nuns or people that are, no, it's something transcendent of all that. So all real spirituality involves a transcendent sense that you carry with your heart, mind, 24 hours a day. It's marvelous. More than that, it's you. It's your natural condition. You're not to be afraid. You're not going to be, you'll be set up all day and night in the most subtle imaginable ways. Don't be concerned. The weather, the bullies, the shows, money, parenting, family conditions, lack of friendships, too many bad influences, work life, it doesn't matter. When you're in this state, it's not just faith that good will out and one day, it's your awareness of what the world is, that it's not the world it seems to be, but it's this consciousness of fullness, a resoluteness, a quiet calm, a purity, a beauty. It's a state of pure love. People get to it through some attraction, but I've met many, many thousands and thousands of people who are spiritual, and we don't have to say a word to each other. It's just acknowledged. It's just there. You don't even look over to one another if you're in a public place, because you know that would be an interruption. It's just boom. I was with my buddy Master G here. He's our great martial arts teacher here, and that's because he takes people to a place of respect where you have to be an A student, respect your parents, don't hurt anyone, and don't hurt yourself. It's a discipline that is lacking in all the world. And beyond that is this other condition that he takes some to, that is a place of quietude, of serenity, of purity, of peace, of kindness, of eternal justice. No one ever got away with anything. That's a delusion to think you're going to get over on anyone, ever. I never try it, I never do it, and from time to time there are things that are necessary, so I'll enforce something. We're working in a big business here, and so you have to make things happen. So I'm saying, no matter how spiritual you are, you can be in very basic conditions and never be fooled. Isn't that wonderful? I've had the worst allergies of my life for the last 2 weeks, round the clock, horrendous. And somehow I'm speaking right now. That's all my prayer to God was, that my voice would work for 25 minutes here, and the rest is okay. And it was true grief, if you think about it humanly, but it didn't bother me in that way. Do you understand? Horrible conditions, but I wasn't lost for one moment. Simply being said is that when you're spiritual, you are spiritual. This thing around us, this madness, it's not yours. It never was. So let's move forward into that quiet condition, gently, steadfastly, and viscerally at the same time. When you have to do something in your material life, you'll do it. And you won't overdo it. And you won't underdo it. It simply is incidental. Whatever comes up. And you'll achieve greatness in many areas, in all the areas of your existence. Spirituality, of all of the tasks in the world, is not a game. And the moment you take the first step into your trusting that, knowingly trusting it, the game is over for you, and you'll know it. You will consciously know that. My buddy, Dr. Buxbasin, the psychiatrist, whatever, in Los Angeles, great Zen master, and I was with him 50 years in Temple University 50 years ago, and I remember asking him, even though I was like 22, I don't know what, and I'd always felt this great spiritual condition. I'm bringing this up to make a point. And I asked him what meditation was, because he had some poetry on the wall. He was editor of the Poetry Journal in English, besides other things, as a teacher. And he had this beautiful statement from a famous Zen master that said, let me see, thousands of monks on hilltops everywhere. The wind blows through our mind. And if you're struck by that and see the reality of that, when you're spiritual, you feel this. You can envision the monks, but it's a delicate spiritual sense. It doesn't have to be monks or nuns or people in apartments or buildings or out in the desert. You capture that. So I thought that was wonderful. So I said, John, because even though I felt these things instinctually but never had a concept for it, I simply said to John, John, what's meditation? I have never asked a spiritual question in my life, or a question about anything. When you're spiritual, you're going to find out on your own. It's not that you're too proud, it's like you're trying to learn what this thing is. And he said, well, Robert, close your eyes and follow your breathing down. And the moment I did that, in an eighth of a second, I knew everything there could ever be. I knew everything there was about God. I didn't tell John, I didn't, and when I walked out of there towards my own apartment back on North Broad Street, I simply invited everyone I saw on the streets to my place every Tuesday night, every Thursday night. I'm having meditation from 7 to 9. And that's what I did. So I'd have 20 people come, and whatever could fit in my apartment up on the 4th floor, on the roof, in the worst neighborhood, and it was just beautiful. As soon as I'd say begin meditation, it would be there. This is an empowerment. When you do this, it will be there. That's how you learn this, is giving it away. You'll give yourself away. And then you're the teacher. God's the teacher. Eternity is the teacher. You're the Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma. You're the work. It's already inside you. And it's relieving yourself of the confusion of this misery of an everyday life in this world. Excuse me, that will take you to this high state of realization. And you'll battle very devious beings and very dark ones in the beginning, and you're going to love it. And boy, are they ugly and gruesome and vile and vicious. But as soon as you know that, you know the devil fears one righteous person more than 1,000 blind believers. And this is the only problem. The entirety of the world is the devil. It is hell. But if you quietly have this understanding, the mission within your heart, and that you are God's mission, the whole thing will disperse. It'll go away like some early morning clouds, the first rays of sun. And your whole life will be that way. You'll walk through this madness the quietude, certitude, and everything will be of good fortune for you. It's all in the realm of perception. So the quiet time you have alone will move out into the streets with you. I, for some reason, remember as I left the house, I picked up a quarter and it said 1965, and that reminded me of this condition I have now. Spent 5 weeks in the jungle warfare school with the Marine Corps for some reason, and it was 80 degrees, 24 hours a day for 5 weeks, and it rained heavy for 5 weeks. And I just loved it. It was just happiness. And the same thing happened a year later in another jungle. And I just love being there because you're not part of the everyday. I've had a couple times to live some years in the redwoods, and when I'm not in the world, and when you're spiritual, you don't have to be, you don't have to do the day-to-day grind. It's, oh boy, are you free? And do you get visitations? And today I'm simply saying, let's be very quiet. Let's create a quiet place in our life. When I was South Philly as a teenager, I would go behind garbage cans at 11th and Glocas, and because I knew no one could see me, because this is a very private issue. It's not shame about it, it's a privacy relating to God. And the world is madness and a hell. So let's train ourselves to be quiet. Create an openness in our life that's very quiet. And it's big enough, it's large enough, this quiet place in our heart and soul, to allow for the visit. And when God visits in God's fullness and glory and wonder and decency and kindness and humanness, it will dissolve all the fears, all the shoulds or woulds or coulds. There is a God. Forget all of history. You are the greatest spiritual person that ever walked the earth. You're here to end all the madness. You will have many gifts and powers. And they all involve sitting quietly and understanding and seeing and perceiving, and you will gain the gifts, the understanding, the awareness to walk through anything, literally. At the beginning you can practice just gently shining some light love on maybe 10 or 50 or 100 people that you know in your life. And they'll all feel it, and you can't talk about it. If it happens here and there, people will know it and feel it, and they'll know you by the quiet of your heart, the cleanliness of your hand, your thoughts and your words. And this is not a hidden state. It's very public, but it's very quiet. You'll know when to act out and when not. You'll be completely different with every person. A room full of people or a world, and you'll be subtly different to communicate with everyone because you're here as the teacher. You're God's eyes and arms and God's feet and his heart and soul in the world. But the world will dissolve within you and through you and around you. That's your destiny. There's nothing wrong with you. You are a great soul. There's everything right with you. These gifts and powers of spiritual illumination will walk through you like your mom's touch. Just, this is the way to go. My son, my daughter. And Mom will always be with you. Is you. If you can contain that thought And you'll fight it all your life, humbly, and you'll know that God's looking out from you, that you're generating God, that you are God. And there is an infinitesimal quality of certitude and an unimaginable quality of humility. It's like people don't know the difference between guilt, humiliation, and humility. Humility is not small, I'm nothing. Greg's the humblest man in the world, and he's never got kicked in the head. With all the times I did karate, I got kicked by white belts, and this guy was never lost a fight. And he was driven to that for spiritual reasons, so I'm not qualifying fighting or relating, that. I'm simply saying that's for America, that would have been a great discipline if handled in that way. It's a spiritual discipline. But the greatest discipline of the world is to know that you do not have to take part in anything. You never have to acquiesce, do anything. You never have to give up your ground, ever. There will be final justice. It'll be handed out lightly through your heart. It's not somewhere else. It's not someone else. No one in the world knows anything. Begin there. There are no experts in the universities and the working places or the gyms or the streets or the skies. When you understand it's all generated by this dark force, the things that seem to be and seem to be solid, as soon as you understand that, you know how to hand out the gifts, the powers. You'll let your love light quietly stream through the air, the seas, the earth, the skies, the generations, the galaxies. You are the living light. You gave yourself to this mission out of unimaginable humility and kindness toward God and your fellow man, your fellow person in the world, fellow souls, to end all the confusion. It's a spiritual war. Everything of the world involves a madness. Don't be taken in by anything. Don't have opinions on anything. Everyone in the world has opinions about everything, and all the opinions are wrong because the world never was, and it never is, and it can't be. And as soon as we come to that in our quiet and develop that certainty of that quiet sense around us, it's a soft, like a soft golden haze on the meadow, in the summer, and you're just taken by that. Well, that presence will be with you, and that is you. And everything that tries to make itself real, it will dissipate, it will disappear with your look. I know when the devil's looking at me, and I can look at it, and sometimes you can't handle things that day. It might take 3 months, 3 years. And you're guiding yourself through this. So you have different traumatic incidents that happen when you're 9 or 12 or 52 or whenever. And all these things will make sense because they're part of the teaching for you to help pull 8, 10, 12 other people you'll meet during your life out of that incidents. So I would gladly walk through the war zones, if that makes sense. Gladly put myself in situations. I'm not saying this because I'm someone. I'm simply saying when you're spiritually conscious, you'll do this. It's not because you're brave. It's because it's the right thing, and you have to understand. You never do anything stupid. You never hurt yourself. You always know. This is in the center of this quiet. There's a knowing. And you know that you know. But you don't fight anything with it. You just keep walking through it, and you're looking through the sources of the madness. And it'll always be in the Sherlock Holmes series, The Great Detective. He always knew, no matter what it was, no matter what the circumstance was or the crime was, he always knew that Moriarty was the problem, this evil professor in Germany. And so somehow we'd find that out. And so here I'm simply saying, it's humorous, and yet it's the God's truth. It's always the devil behind everything. So if you know that and quietly look for that, then you won't be impressed by the shadows on the wall, by the kabuki theater, right? The right or wrong issues about, there are true believers, and I've always told friends, if you know anyone who's a true believer in anything, walk away quickly, first check your valuables. I know people in the world that are involved with the greatest, like the best tools for spirituality, and yet at the center of it, they're true believers. So they'll fight for that system of thought, and you know it's elegant in the spiritual sense. It's at the end of it, they're going to fight for it, and that there's nothing to fight for. Just the quiet. Walk away. Above all, there's nothing to fear. So you let go of all trepidation about everything. That's your path. When you see God looking out through your conscious awareness at everything around, you're going to be very impressed. It's so many golden orbs and lighted vistas of understanding and wisdom, and it just billows up from within you like with a softness and a sweetness and an awareness. So I'm using these words of gentleness, of kindness, but it's ironclad. Nothing wrong with you. Everything is spiritual. You're not here to be toyed with. If someone's toying with you, get very quiet and think of me. And sometimes it can be a day, a week, a month, a year, or a lifetime, and you deal with things. And as soon as you open up that quiet place waiting for the visit, you'll realize you've already dealt with everything. And you're on your way. Something so wonderful, so true and kind and human. And it's more powerful than that lighted orb we call the sun. It's more powerful than daytime and nighttime. It's bigger than love itself. It's you. Isn't it you? The quietness, the serenity, the simpleness of life. You will understand everything. You'll listen to people quietly. I can listen to people that are CEOs or teachers of something very complex, and they always assume I'm expert in an area too, because completely quiet inside, I'm not making a decision, I'm listening completely. They'll feel listened to and honored because no one listens to anyone, ever. But when you get really quiet, then that will heal all the decent people in your environment. Without a prayer, without a pat on the back, without money being handed out, they're allowed to be who they are. And that's all the spiritual empowerment is about. What it's about, you're allowed to be who you are. And who you are literally is that the wise still call God. You're that, not this. You have achieved something beyond greatness the moment you capture this thought that there's nothing to react to in perception, that you are God himself quietly settling into this hell so that you can transform it from darkness to light. And there are no problems, no solutions, no beginnings or ends. It's all in consciousness. And when you can grasp that, then you will create a quiet and the world will disappear. That is your destiny. It's called illumination, enlightenment, spirituality, samadhi, every cosmic consciousness. There's so many, the beatific vision, the vision of God. And you have it, and then you'll know you don't have to come back here ever. And not here, you don't have to incarnate again. It's like in consciousness. You're not going anywhere to go to heaven. You're relinquishing the power that this world seems to hold, that you volunteered for to come in here and have it all come at you. It's all come at you. You know how creepy your life is. And as soon as you grasp this thought, spend a few months, 2-3 months in the beginning, then that will be a boot camp period. And then the next 2 or 3 years, when you're prepared for the visit, and when you're not, God will be with you. And you'll have all these visions of the vastness. That is your mind. In other words, it's your consciousness. Eternity, infinity, Godness, heaven, unbound joy. It's yours to have, to live with, and to provide for all your decent people you run into. And there may be many, there may be few. It doesn't matter. The entirety of it is the illusion. Be kind to yourself first of all and forever. Take responsibility for everything. I can't explain to people that my great teachers, Kathleen Judge or whoever over the years of my life, Baba Bedi from the great mystic from India and his wife, they're always with me. It doesn't, people, what do you contact? No, I don't contact anyone. I do nothing online. I do nothing. They're here with me always. It doesn't matter about our material life. Most of my friends are older and horrible physical conditions. Like I say, the last 12 days for me were the worst of my life. Despite everything else, I just prayed that I'd have 25 minutes of my voice worked, and just allergies, but interesting. My friendships, they're with me always. Your mom, your dad, your loved one, my dog I lost when I was 5 years old, Great Dane, like always with me. My buddies that I lost through war, criminality, or drug addiction, or whatever over the years, they're always with me. My young brother, James, he died right after Nam, got a Bronze Star. And my family blamed the VA or this or that. I didn't blame it, I was so happy that he was free of this madness. He wanted to play a violin, but he's a big tough guy from South Philly, so he had to do whatever, and I was glad he was free, but my family died for 10 years because he's our little baby. Left with 4 sisters and myself, but I'm simply saying, he's always here. All my friends that I've lost or found. Think of it, Jesus Christ or Moses or Buddha, and it just is. There are not 2 presences, 2 people in the universe. There's only you. In your conscious awareness, you'll overcome all the forces of the Dark One. And you'll live happily ever after. now and forever. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Craig.